Good morning, everybody. It's me, Robert Phoenix. I am back once again for another scintillating edition of the Astro Weather as I have fun with the green screen today. Hope everybody is doing well and getting off on the good foot, as they say. We got some energy and traction in chat, which is always great. Good morning, chat. And wherever you are in the realm, I hope your day has been blessed or will continue to be so in the minutes and hours ahead. All right. So we're going to get into the astro weather. Also have a really interesting star of the day today. So much to choose from. Fertile ground. But today is definitely an interesting exercise in understanding a chart from a couple different perspectives. I'm just going to tease you a little bit. Little tease. So let's get into the weather, shall we? This is a very interesting day astrologically. Bring it up here. You know, a lot of the time when I do a chart like this, and I try to break it down for y'all, as they say here in Texas, I really am looking at the personal relationship with these influences. And every now and then, you know, the mundane part of it sneaks in when I pick something up. And it's really interesting because when I focus on the personal side, that's really what I'm trying to do. Like, how does this work for you? Like, what can you get out of it that'll make your day a little more interesting and informed? And it's almost like I have to turn channels to kind of zoom out to the mundane. So yesterday, I talked about sort of the intensity of the moon and like the potential for rage, right? With the moon, Mars square, and then the catharsis that comes after. And I was just looking at that from an individual perspective. But yesterday, apparently, there were 2 shootings in California. One in a town that I used to live in called Half Moon Bay, and another, I think, somewhere a little further down the coast. And that would have been an event that would have qualified for a mundane moment with the moon Mars square, right? Explosive. And of course, piggybacking on emotion and moving into legislative pieces for more gun control and the limitation of certain magazines, things like that. So every now and then I have to remind myself to see if I can look into both worlds, right? Like your world as it relates to you and also the larger world. Because I don't really want to miss anything. It's the Virgo in me. I don't want to miss anything. It's like, yeah, I left something on the table there. So let's check out where we are today. You know, the first thing that I saw is the transit of the moon that we were talking about yesterday, which is the conjunction with Neptune right here, kind of in that really nice Shiva crescent. And also the conjunction with Vesta, the asteroid, which is to me a reminder of what you're here to do. What are you here to do? Vesta is the flickering flame that illuminates who you are from the end of your existence. Remember that. So this is a really interesting configuration. I'll start off with the mundane or the collective interpretation, or at least my projection into the interpretation. Then I'm going to move on. But I played a song on my show, 15 Minutes of Flame, yesterday called "Why Can't We Be Friends" by War. And it's a funny little video that they put together. And somebody made a comment somewhere in the comment section on the video, and they said, why can't we be like the old hippies? Why is everybody so angry all the time? And that's a really good question. Because when I look at Neptune and Vesta and the moon in Pisces and getting ready to conjunct with Aries, which will give it a very different shade tomorrow. To me, this is all about peace, right? Peace, harmony. And they seem to be very old and outdated concepts in the world that we're theoretically living in, but they're very important ones. And I feel like this is an energy that predominates today. You know, William Blake, the poet, the painter, the philosopher, the Gnostic, once wrote, "Damn braces and bless relaxes." I'm like, that's an interesting little ditty there, William. Damn braces and bless relaxes. That means when you damn something, when you are in a state of separation, it braces the individual for conflict or contact. Blessing relaxes the individual and allows them to be open. And this is one of those days, right? This is one of those days where blessing relaxes. And today is a reminder, especially with the moon at the 27th degree of Pisces. Today is a reminder of very deep spiritual, religious, sacred values, that everything really exists in a state of oneness. It all exists. It's all there. Where it's not is our fragmentation and fractalization of everything. Everything's become fractal in our world. And this is one of these days where if you have time, I talked about this yesterday, if you have time, take the time out, and no matter how tough we have it here in the West or in North America, compared to other places, I'm telling you, we live like kings and queens. We may not know that, and that doesn't mean that we have to discount what's coming at us, because what's coming at us is complicated and asymmetric in its intention to disrupt the populace. But if you come from this place, it doesn't discount the fact that you can live in that world and deal with that world. Today, it's one of those days where if you're going to be in the world and not of it, the not of it part is kind of important. So you get to practice the ability to blend emotionally and remember, take time out to remember that really our end point is a return to the one. That's what that, to me, this is what this moon conjunction with Vesta, our return, our end point. I mean, we are already at one with the one, but our conscious awareness as a corpus or collective, that's a better term, or even as just a body, it's not quite there because the body is fragmented. The pinky is doing one thing, the right pinky is doing one thing, the left thumb is doing another thing. So we're not really connected in the 3D realm in that way. But this points to it. Now, the other piece with this Neptune Vesta moon conjunction is that things don't really have to get to you. You know, it's like, don't sweat the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. Just let it go. This is one of those days where you can let it go. Now, on the collective level, on the mundane level, could the energy be used to be manipulative? Sure. because the moon does represent how the subconscious and the semi-conscious tie to the public is swayed. That's the moon is always connected to that. The moon is always connected to feeling, connected to various phases, occultations, right? I mean, that's how the moon operates. The sun, on the other hand, doesn't work like that. The sun illuminates. So when we talk about moving the needle with the public, the moon is almost always involved because it's playing, it being the system, whatever the system is playing on people's emotions. And the moon rules emotional content. So that's the other side of this. Now, there aren't any hard angles, but tomorrow, when we have the moon transiting into Aries, I would expect also with this square with Mercury, there's going to be a lot of gun talk. It's already happening, but tomorrow the moon will be used to amplify the public perception, the public feeling, and really piggyback on what happened over the last 48 hours. But I feel like today, don't sweat the small stuff. Remember where you come from, right? And where you come from is complete and whole. That's where you come from. It's complete and whole. And it's through our sleep and through at times even being heavily indoctrinated into the trance that we forget this. Through trauma and trance, we forget this. So if you can remind yourself throughout the day, while you're driving down the road, while you're in the bathroom, while you're in a meeting and somebody is prattling on about something that isn't all that interesting or stimulating, just remind yourself, right? This is a reminder. Let's talk about relationship. Let's talk about loyalty. Today is one of those days where I wouldn't be surprised. And again, we can throw this out into the mundane stage. I wouldn't be surprised if you have to stand up for somebody and you're standing alone. Like, look at Venus and Saturn. There's a lot of minor aspects with Venus and Saturn, but there are no major aspects. So this is enduring loyalty, isolated and out there. You may have to stand up for somebody, and you may have to stand up for somebody where everybody else is standing against that person. And we might see some of this also today in the mundane world. It's very interesting how they're playing hide the classified document. You know, it's like a parlor game now. I think the latest one is Mike Pence. And oh yeah, he's a great guy. He's totally in. See, this is what we're talking about here. Like in the mundane world, people making these bold, naked declarations of support and loyalty with nothing really supporting any of it, right? Nothing is really underpinning any of it, with the exception of maybe they made a deal or a contract. And the conjunction is so strong here, especially in the fixed sign of Aquarius, that they have to. They have to. You know, Trump, who's been on record by stating that Mike Pence was a traitor, all of a sudden comes out and says, great guy, totally innocent, he would never do anything like that, right? That, to me, this is the Venus-Saturn conjunction. Now, there's an upside to this. You know, this is like standing up for the geek or the nerd in middle school, high school, who's about to get beaten up, but you're the only person that gets in the way and says, hey, stop it. You know, he's cool, right? He's cool. Even if you have to convince yourself a little bit that he's cool. That's the Venus-Saturn conjunction. So this is an interesting dichotomy of energy. Here, you can just get, I wouldn't say lost, but you can dive into this feeling of oneness and connectivity. You know, I was watching this video last night. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. It's kind of a famous video. It was this guy who had a taxi, a water taxi, think up in the Orcas Islands. I think it was in the Puget Sound. And there was an orca who was hunting an otter in the water, right? And the otter jumped on board this guy's boat while the orca circled it. To me, this is kind of like the moon Neptune conjunction, right? Like for a moment in time, there's some refuge. There's some refuge in your emotional state when you connect it up with the potential for higher realization in the realm of the spirit. Let's see what else we have here today. The sun is starting to move closer into square with Uranus, what's interesting here is the ruling planet of Aquarius is Uranus. So this is where we get Aquarian contradictions, which is not all that surprising for Aquarius. Aquarian contradictions. What are you rebelling against? What are you rebelling against? Now, there is the potential for you to put your energy into some really cool, new, exciting, passionate ventures where we've got the sun sextile to Jupiter, which we talked about yesterday. It was really close yesterday, 4 and 4. It's still there. So do you want to put your energy into fighting against something, Sun Uranus, or do you want to put your energy and invest in more creativity, more independence, and more personal sovereignty? I would invest in the latter versus the former. Now, you may get some pushback, and people will say, well, that's a really stupid idea. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Well, you want to do it because there's the potential for more growth here. We're in this really interesting season, early spring. I'm looking out my window right now. It's a little chilly in the morning, but it's going to get warm today, and the skies are blue. The sun is fresh at 5, Aquarius. Don't be afraid to initiate a new venture today, or even, starting yesterday, but over the course of the next couple of days. As the sun begins to separate a little bit, the effect begins to separate a little bit. But you also gain courage here, right? With the sextile to Chiron, it's like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. Yes, you can do it. We still have the in conjunct with Mercury and Mars. I think that's more gun talk. That's more gun talk coming our way and trying to literally connect the dots. The talking heads literally trying to connect the dots to Mars. Over the course of the next couple of days, Mercury will begin to separate, and we won't have that awkward in conjunct. By and large, I think this is a really, really good day. A really good day. The only challenge I see is if you have to stand up for somebody in your life, you're kind of out there, you're naked, and say, I believe in this person. All right. Courage your convictions. The concrete of your commitment. Okay. Interesting start of the day. I was so tempted today to prattle on about Vladimir Zelensky. I want to thank the American people for giving me so much money. I couldn't do it though. Not today. Not today. Let me show you a very interesting chart. And a very interesting person, and one who I think really fits the bill. And it's John Belushi. And last night we were talking about his chart. Well, how did he get black like that? Oh, that's interesting. Sometimes when I do this with graphics, it turns my chart into just black. That's okay. We were talking about Belushi last night, and I was looking at his chart. And my initial experience of looking at his chart was this guy was lonely. He was lonely. You can tell here, right? Like Venus and Jupiter conjunct in the first house in Aquarius. Like he needed contact all the time. but it feels to me like with the Jupiter conjunction, it would exacerbate his loneliness in a lot of ways. And we can see here, right, with Venus and Jupiter, they're squaring Neptune. And I feel like that's where Belushi was incredibly vulnerable, was in personal relationships. And of course, he palled around and with his Saturday Night Live crew, and you know, he had connections with Dan Aykroyd, et cetera, et cetera. But I just got the sense by looking at his chart that this is a lonely guy. And then I found this quote, and the quote was, "On stage is the only place I really know what I'm doing." And then when we look at where that connection is, you can't see it here because the chart is black. But here is his sun in Aquarius, Mars in Aquarius, Mercury in Aquarius, and these are all trines to Neptune, which rules things like acting, movies, cinema, right? Neptune being able to blend in and take on another persona. Neptune, Pisces, Leo, those are two signs that are most definitely connected to the acting profession, right? So here he, what is this? Oh, here we can see the harmonic, right? Like his being, the force of Belushi's being, the harmonic going straight to Neptune. And here with the square with Venus, Jupiter, also his relationship with women, not easy, right? And we're going to get into John Belushi's death, because when I looked up his death, I was shocked and I wasn't shocked at the same time. And then he also has this kind of seesaw going on over here with Pluto in the 8th house, right? That's, I mean, it's Pluto's house. So it's at home here, but this is a pretty intense combination. And he has Saturn and Virgo, and there's consequences with Saturn and Virgo in the 8th house if you don't take care of what? Your health, right? And we have all these inconjuncts. So there we have the Saturn inconjunct with the sun. We have the inconjunct with Venus and Jupiter with Pluto. And it would be a woman who would administer the death shot of the speedball to John Belushi, right? Oh, the chart isn't black. Oh, well, thanks. I see it here as black. You guys see it in color. That's really weird. That's really weird. So Belushi's chart is really interesting. You can tell that he is just on, right? When he's up here in the 9th house, when he is channeling Neptune, right? When he's able to blend, you know, his own personality with whatever other personality he's taking on, whether it's Pluto from Animal House or one of the Blues Brothers or the samurai character from Saturday Night Live. I mean, John Belushi had all these different characters, and it allowed him to dissolve into those characters. You know what's also interesting about this chart? I'm going to talk a little bit about Placidus versus sidereal astrology. And when you look at Belushi, you know, he's a radical, right? He is a rabble rouser. He's the uncontrollable force of Pluto in Animal House. The guy steals the show. He steals the movie. It's really his movie. And he used to hang out with a lot of punk rock people. Like he was a really big fan of the band Fear, which was an LA-based punk rock group. That's all really Aquarian stuff. You know, those are Aquarian kinds of expressions. John Belushi's rock and roll. If we were to put his sun in sidereal format, it would make him a Capricorn. John Belushi is no Capricorn. So I'm not here to diss sidereal astrology. I'm just telling you, it's one of the examples that I would use to prove the legitimacy of Placidus as it relates to the chart. Now, here again, we have kind of a sense of Belushi's loneliness. with the moon in the 12th house, to me, that's lonely, right? Like this is him staying up late at night, right? Him hanging out in places that he shouldn't be, him trying to expand his emotional content through the use of drugs, more than likely alcohol, right? Even though his moon is pretty well aspected to Pluto, right? He could draw on fairly strong emotions. And we have a sextile with the moon with Mercury, right? He's got Mercury retrograde. I wonder if he had a bit of a learning disability. Anyway, still, to me, this is another aspect of kind of the lonely, restless nature of John Belushi. And of course, we have the moon Uranus opposition, which makes that, I think, even more pronounced in a lot of ways. Because Uranus over here is, you know, it's active, it's crazy, it's wild. You know, he's got that, that kind of, well, I guess it's a wide trine with Mercury, 7 degrees, not quite with Mars. So he enjoyed being unpredictable, but there's a restlessness here as well with this moon Uranus opposition. The other thing about Belushi's chart that's really struck me is he has no water in his chart except the south node, which is going to play a big role here in a minute. I'm going to show you. He has no water, right? No water. So people that don't have a lot of water in their chart, they sometimes can lack empathy. They can lack compassion. And we know that water is emotion. And if you don't have a lot of water, you can try to compensate for it by indulging in drugs and alcohol, because those are Piscean, right? Those are Piscean mediums. So it's like a replacement. He's parched, he's thirsty. And so what does he do? He tries to jack into his emotional state vis-a-vis drugs and alcohol. I think Belushi was, you know, borderline genius, could lose himself in his characters really well. But this is a lonely guy, and I would say a bit tortured. That might be an understatement. I'd looked at his death chart. It's weird. Death has been coming up for me in a lot of different ways recently. I was reading about Sam Kinison, another comic. I was reading about his death. I'll save that for another day. So I was looking at Belushi's, you know, he died at the Chateau Marmont in LA. And there was a woman, Kathy Smith, who supposedly injected him with the deadly speedball. So I kind of estimated, right? Like he died on March 5th. And I'm thinking probably somewhere about like 1 or 2 in the morning, the cops came by the next day and they came to his room and, you know, he was lifeless. And I was shocked, and I wasn't shocked when I saw Pluto right here on his midheaven. It's like, whoa. Now that had been there for, it's not like, hey, Pluto just shows up overnight, right? But look where it is in relationship to his south node. It's almost bang on, right? Almost bang on. So not only do we have that, but we have Saturn, Mars, and we have Pallas, which is, I don't want to leave it out of the conversation, but I also don't want it to make it a big part of the conversation, right? And Neptune is what? Drugs. So we have Saturn, Mars, and there's a price to pay. Right? This is a reckoning. This is a moment of reckoning for John Belushi, coming in and squaring Venus, Jupiter. And we have Venus rules relationships, partnerships, femininity, and who is the person that gives Belushi the Kevorkian death shot? It's a woman. This is a really, really interesting chart. And I may go over it a bit more on Sunday night. And I might even bring up a few other examples of moments like this. But he was destined, right? With Pluto up here on his midheaven. And it was at this point in time. It was at this point in time, right around 1 a.m. It all lines up. And what's also interesting here is Juno on the ascendant. It's like, I think Belushi had gotten tired in a lot of ways of his own mythology. And perhaps through death, there would be a new beginning. Maybe not consciously on his part. All right, that's it. That's your Astro Weather. 29 minutes, a little over the top today. I do need to talk about a few things before I ski-daddle out of here. The first thing is that I do a show at 9/11 on my website. And it's right there, 15minutesofflame.com. And yesterday we got into Damar Hamlin and some interesting information regarding death records in Pennsylvania. So if you want to get into some of this material, come on over, 15minutesofflame.com. We kick it off at 9/11. We got a great chat group over there. A lot of people that are in chat here today in this group show up. And it's about an hour and a half of digging through the rabbit hole. Music, laughter, good company. And yesterday I brought my my sponsor into the conversation, and some people had some questions about how to get a hold of the discount. Well, it's not a discount, it's actually a bonus. It's a value add, right? So every morning I have a little moon dust in my coffee, and every night I have a sleep gummy, which is just absolutely and utterly effective tool in my sleeping. And I've been really paying a lot more attention to my sleep and doing my best to kind of get into a better circadian rhythm. And the gummy has really helped. So I'm talking about super high quality organic hemp products from True Hemp Science. My friend Christopher Lynch, who works his tail off every day to educate people, create the product, fulfill the orders. This is an American story right here. And if you order $100 worth of product, he's going to give you free product. And he's very generous. All you got to do is type in 15MINS, 15MINS when you check out. Here's the link to go through this portal. I'll leave it in the description of the show. And if you have any questions, there's a phone number there. You can always ring him or Marsha, and they'll answer any question you have about CBD and which one might be the best fit for you. All right. Thanks for being here. You know the mantra, use your head in order to discern what's real, your heart to stable what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Have yourself an even more blessed day than it already is. Take care. We'll see you over on 15 and back